My own sister, my boss, and my traitorous best friend thought they could annihilate me with one vicious betrayal, but they're about to face a devastating reckoning for firing the secret mastermind who owns their entire empire. Buckle up, because this revenge will leave you reeling. They fired me to save my own sister without knowing I secretly owned the entire company they worked for. 3 people stood behind my firing: my sister Lydia, my boss Serena, and my so-called best friend Finn. They grinned as they stripped me of my ID badge, treating me like garbage to be discarded. I stayed silent, suppressing a smirk, because what they didn't know was that they had just fired their true owner. "You've made the gravest mistake of your lives," I whispered to myself, my heart pounding with cold fury as their smug faces gloated. 8 months ago, I was just Jasper Kane, the IT guy at Quantum Innovations in Boulder, Colorado, fixing jammed servers and getting no respect. People often forgot I was in the room, even though I was the one keeping the company running. My sister, Lydia, joined Quantum through me. I pulled strings, got her hired, and trained her myself. But the moment she got cozy with the CEO's daughter, everything changed. Suddenly, I was excluded from meetings, emails went missing, and projects I initiated were reassigned to other teams. "She's plotting against me," I muttered, my gut churning as I noticed her sidelong glances in meetings, her whispers with the CEO's inner circle. Then came the final blow. A fabricated complaint filed by Lydia, alleging I'd misused company data. The HR manager, Naomi, who I later discovered was her friend from college, handed me a termination letter with a crocodile tear smile. "Jasper, you understand. It's for the company's good, nothing personal." "Nothing personal?" I snapped, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. "You're my sister, Lydia, and you've just obliterated everything I've sacrificed for." "Not personal. She was my sister, and she'd just cost me everything I'd built, or so they thought." "You'll regret this, all of you," I said, my voice low and menacing as I stared at Lydia, Finn, and Serena, their smug satisfaction fueling my resolve. Because while they were playing office politics, I'd built something far bigger. 6 years ago, I launched a silent venture through a shell company, using my tech skills to develop AI-driven analytics tools. That shell company, Vortex Enterprises, began quietly acquiring shares of Quantum Innovations. I kept it hidden behind proxies and business aliases. No one knew. Not even Lydia, and just 10 days before they fired me, I finalized the deal. Vortex Enterprises officially owned 78% of their firm. I stayed silent, waiting to see who'd betray me first. And she did, right in the back. "I trusted you, Lydia," I whispered as I gathered my belongings, my smirk hidden from their gloating faces. "Now, you'll face the consequences." So, I walked out that day like a loser, with everyone whispering behind my back, but I wasn't done, not even close. 3 days after they fired me, they threw a lavish party at the office, celebrating new leadership. Lydia strutted in wearing a $5,500 0-cents gown, acting like she owned the place. Finn, my ex-best friend, stood beside her, clutching sparkling wine like he hadn't just stabbed me in the back. They were laughing, toasting, babbling about fresh starts. "They're dancing on my grave," I muttered, my blood boiling as I watched the live stream from a hacked office camera, their betrayal fueling my fire. "They think they've crushed me," I said, my voice steady with cold determination as I prepared my counterstrike. But what they didn't know was that I'd already scheduled a mandatory board meeting for that evening, under my real name. At exactly 6:47 p.m., every senior executive received an alert. "Emergency ownership review, attendance required." Lydia was baffled. "Why is the board calling a meeting without consulting me?" Finn said. "Maybe it's about your promotion." "You're about to be named CTO." "You're in for a rude awakening," Lydia sneered, her voice dripping with arrogance as she adjusted her gown. She smirked, but that smirk wouldn't last. The boardroom fell silent when I walked in. Lydia's jaw dropped. Finn's glass nearly slipped from his hand. The CEO, our Aunt Serena, squinted and snapped, "Jasper, what the hell are you doing here?" "I'm here to reclaim what's mine," I said, my voice icy as I strode to the head of the table, their stunned faces feeding my resolve. I calmly took the seat at the head of the table, then slid a file to the board's lawyer. "These are the ownership documents. You might want to read them aloud." "This is your funeral, Lydia," I said, my voice cold as I leaned back, watching their world unravel. The lawyer looked puzzled until he flipped through the file. Then his eyes widened. "This can't be right. This document shows that a holding company, Vortex Enterprises, now holds majority shares of the firm." He turned to me. "And according to these records, you are the sole owner." The room went dead silent. Lydia whispered, "This is a joke, right? He's just an IT guy." I looked at her and said, "Correction, I was your IT guy. Now I'm the reason your paycheck exists." "You've betrayed us all," Lydia gasped, her voice trembling with shock. I met her gaze unyielding. "No, you betrayed me first, and now you'll pay." Everyone was frozen. The board members began whispering among themselves. Serena stood, furious. "You manipulated us! You went behind our backs!" I leaned forward. "No, I played the game you taught me. You just never thought the IT guy could outsmart you." "You're a snake!" Serena roared, her face red with rage. I smiled coldly. "And you're a fool who underestimated me." Lydia's face paled. Finn couldn't stop blinking. Serena stood frozen, like someone had short-circuited her mind. I sat there calmly, letting the silence do the damage. Every second that passed was a reminder. They'd just handed power to the one person they'd tried to destroy. One board member, Mr. Elton, cleared his throat. "Jasper, are you saying you've been acquiring shares behind the scenes all this time?" I nodded. 6 years of silence. While you mocked me, overlooked me, pushed me aside, I was buying the company one piece at a time. Lydia slammed her hand on the table. "This is insane. You were a nobody. You didn't even speak up in meetings. How could you pull this off?" I looked straight at her. "Because I didn't waste time chasing titles like you. I was building an empire. You're a coward hiding behind dirty tricks," Lydia screamed, her face contorted with fury. I leaned in, my voice lethal. "And you're a traitor who sold out her own brother for a corner office." The board lawyer confirmed. Everything was legal, valid, irreversible. Then I dropped the second bomb. "I'm not here to just own the company. I'm here to make changes." Effective immediately, the following executives are being removed for unethical conduct. I slid another folder across the table, containing emails, transactions, manipulated reports. Lydia's name topped the list. She snatched the folder, flipped through it in panic, and shouted, "You're doing this because you're jealous, because I outshined you." "Jealous?" I scoffed, my voice dripping with contempt. "I'm doing this because you're a poison to this company, Lydia." "No," I said, standing slowly. "I'm doing this because you betrayed me and because you're a liability to this company." Finn jumped in, sweating. "Jasper, we're friends. Don't do this, man." I turned to him, my voice sharp. "Friends don't sell each other out for a corner office. You could have walked away. You chose them." "You're heartless," Finn stammered, his voice cracking with desperation. I leaned in, unyielding. "You broke my trust, Finn. That's on you." He didn't say another word. The board had no choice. My 78% ownership gave me full voting power. Within minutes, I had them removed from their positions. But I wasn't done. I pulled out 3 sealed letters and handed one to Lydia, one to Finn, and one to Serena. "Consider these your final paychecks, severance included. You're officially out." Lydia's voice cracked. "You can't do this. You can't erase us." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You fired me to save yourself. Now I'm returning the favor. You'll pay for this, Jasper," Lydia hissed, tears streaming down her face as she clutched the letter. I remained calm. "You've already paid, Lydia. Everything you had." I walked out of that boardroom, every eye on me, but as I reached the door, I paused and said, "Oh, and that company retreat next month in Tahiti still happening, just without you. But what they did next changed everything. I thought it was over, thought firing them would end it, but I had no idea how far they'd go to destroy me. 4 days later, I started getting strange calls. Silent, just breathing on the other end. Then emails arrived. Anonymous threats, fake lawsuits, absurd claims of company fraud. "They're hunting me," I whispered, my heart racing as another cryptic email landed in my inbox. At first I ignored them, thinking it was just noise. But then someone broke into my apartment. Nothing was stolen, but my laptop was open, files accessed, a clear message. I checked the security footage. Someone had used my old keycard, the one from my IT days. Only 2 people still had access to that keycard system, Lydia and Finn. "They're waging war," I said, my voice trembling with fury as I reviewed the footage, my resolve hardening. "You won't scare me," I muttered, my hands shaking as I saved the footage, ready to strike back. I knew they were behind it, but I didn't know how desperate they'd become. I later learned that after I fired them, Lydia tried launching her own tech firm using stolen quantum files. But when investors ran background checks, they uncovered the scandal. No one would touch her. She was blacklisted. Finn, meanwhile, groveled to a competitor for a job. But every company already knew his betrayal. They thought I'd leaked it. But I hadn't said a word. "They're drowning in their own lies," I said, my voice steady as I read the industry reports, their downfall fueling my fire. They were crashing hard and blamed me for it all. So they hatched one final plan to take me down completely. It unfolded at Quantum's annual shareholder meeting, my first as majority owner. Everything was flawless. The presentation, the numbers. Profits had soared since I took over. By the time I stepped onto the stage, someone shouted from the back, "Jasper Kane is a fraud! He stole this company!" It was Lydia, striding forward in front of hundreds of shareholders, board members, and press, waving a thick file. "This," she declared, "proves Jasper's holding company used stolen software and fake shell companies. He doesn't legally own this firm." "You're finished, Jasper!" Lydia shrieked, her eyes blazing with vengeance as she waved the file. The room went silent. Everyone turned to me. One mistake and I could lose everything, my reputation, my company, all I'd built. The moderator turned to me. "Mr. Kane, do you have a response?" I walked to the mic, calm, cold, then smiled. "Yes," I said. "I was hoping you'd show up today, Lydia, because I brought something too." I pulled out my folder, containing recorded calls, emails, bank transfers showing how Lydia had bribed a former employee to fake documents. I'd let it happen, let her walk into my trap, because weeks ago, I'd planted a fake file labeled "Ownership Vulnerability" in the system. She took the bait. I played a short audio clip, her voice crystal clear. "If we leak this, it'll ruin him. Doesn't matter if it's real, by the time he proves it's fake, the damage is done. You've played your last card, Lydia," I said, my voice ringing with triumph as the audio echoed. Her treachery laid bare. Gasps filled the room. The moderator stood in shock. One board member whispered, "Oh my God," I turned to Lydia. "You taught me how to play dirty." "I just got better at it." "You set me up," Lydia screamed, her voice breaking with rage. I leaned in, unyielding. "You set yourself up when you betrayed your own blood." Security escorted her out. The audience applauded, and I looked out at them. This company was built on silence, betrayal, and politics, but from today forward it will stand for something better. But just as I thought the game was over, a letter arrived at my desk the next morning from someone I hadn't heard from in 16 years. The envelope had no name, just my office address and a silver-embossed seal I hadn't seen in over a decade. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single handwritten note. "We know who really funded Vortex Enterprises. You're not the only ghost in this story. Let's meet." My heart stopped. There was only one person who signed their name like that. Ronan Vale, my ex-business partner, the man I thought had died in a plane crash 16 years ago. "He's back to steal my throne," I whispered, my hands trembling as I clutched the note, dread and determination warring within me. But if he was alive, that meant everything I'd built wasn't just mine. Back when I started Vortex, Ronan and I were nobodies. Two broke tech nerds, coding in a garage day and night. He was brilliant but reckless, greedy, the kind who chased shortcuts over strategy. He wanted to sell our code to a shady offshore investor with serious red flags. I refused, and then the crash happened. His plane went down, no body found. I moved on, built Vortex alone, or so I thought. "If he's alive, he's a threat," I said, my voice steady despite the fear gnawing at me. I followed the note's instructions, an empty warehouse on the edge of Boulder at 1:00 a.m. When I arrived, he was there. Same smirk, same denim jacket. Like he hadn't vanished. "Long time, Jasper," he said, stepping from the shadows. "I thought you were dead," I replied. He laughed. "Almost. But watching you take the company solo gave me a reason to return." He tossed me a flash drive. "What's this?" I asked. "Proof that Vortex Enterprises was seed-funded through an account I set up, meaning I legally own 45% of it." "You're a phantom with no claim," I said, my voice icy as I gripped the flash drive, my mind racing. My stomach twisted. "That's impossible. You were gone. You signed over everything." "Forge the signature," he interrupted, grinning. "Now I want in. Half the profits, half the power." Ronan's voice grew menacing. "You've built an empire, Jasper, but it's half mine. Give it up or I'll burn it all down. Board, media, investors, everything." "You're delusional," I shot back, my voice steady despite the panic rising. "You're nothing but a ghost haunting a dead dream." It felt like the floor dropped beneath me. I'd just taken down my enemies, exposed betrayal, rebuilt my name from ashes, and now the ghost of my past wanted half my empire. I stared at him, calm, then smiled. "You didn't come back for power. You came back because you're broke." His grin faded. "You wouldn't have waited 16 years if you were thriving. You've got nothing. That flash drive's a bluff." He stepped forward, voice low. "Want to bet?" I handed him a folder. "I knew you were alive. I've been tracking the offshore account you used to fund Vortex, and I bought it 8 months ago." His eyes widened. "You used a dead man's account? And I used it to bury you legally. You don't own 45% of anything. You're just a ghost. You can't do this," Ronan roared, his face contorting with rage. "I made you, Jasper." I stepped closer, my voice lethal. "You abandoned me, Ronan. I made myself." Security lights flickered on. My private legal team walked in. Ronan backed away. "You set me up." "No, I said. I finished the story you tried to erase." "You're finished, Ronan," I roared, my voice echoing in the warehouse. "You're nothing but a shadow now." As he was escorted out, I stood there, breathing deeply. I had no family left, no friends from the old world, but I had peace, and that was priceless. Back at my office, I hung a new frame on the wall. They fired me, but I owned everything they worked for. Beneath it, I added, and when the ghost came back, I buried them too. "This is my empire," I whispered, my voice resolute with triumph, the weight of my victory unassailable. Because sometimes revenge isn't loud, it's just permanent.